আমন্ত্রণ জানাচ্ছি ডিবিসির বিশেষ আয়োজন মিট দ্য এনভয় অনুষ্ঠানে। সাথে আছি আমি অন্তরা রায় চৌধুরী। আজকে আমাদের স্টুডিওতে উপস্থিত আছেন বাংলাদেশে নিযুক্ত ব্রিটিশ হাই কমিশনার রবার্ট চ্যাটারটন ডিকসন। দর্শক, অতিথির সুবিধার্থে অনুষ্ঠানটি ইংরেজিতে পরিচালনা করছি। Hello and welcome to the special program of DBC News, Meet the Envoy. I'm Antara Chowdhury with you, and today we have a special guest with us, His Excellency British High Commissioner to Bangladesh, Robert Chatterton Dickson. Let's talk with him. Your Excellency, thanks for coming and giving your valuable time with us. Your Excellency, it's worth mentioning that before returning to homeland in 1972, Bangladesh founder Sheikh Mujibur Rahman had a meeting with the then Prime Minister Edward Heath in London. How do you see the historic trip along with its cooperation during Bangladesh's liberation war?
Well, I think it was a really significant moment because Bangabandhu had been held in Pakistan during the liberation war. He was then released by the Pakistanis and he decided that he would go to London. He did his first press conference as a free man in Claridge's Hotel in London. He then, as you said, he went to see our then Prime Minister, Edward Heath. So I think in a way that visit was a really important moment in him announcing himself, Bangabandhu announcing himself on the world stage. And then he was flown back in an aircraft of the Royal Air Force back to Bangladesh to take over the leadership of this new country. And I think in a way that sort of set the stage for what has been an incredibly productive relationship between the UK and Bangladesh in the 50 plus years since then, which has been a very strong development partnership, and increasingly it's becoming a partnership also based on trade, security, the political relationship, people to people, culture, education. It's a really important and significant relationship for both sides, and it has its roots in that first visit by Bangabandhu to London in early 1972.
True. So UK is maintaining a strong partnership in trade and investment, in RMG sector particularly. So what's your government's plan to boost it?
Well, what we've decided, as you of course know, Bangladesh graduates from LDC status, from least developed country status in 2026. And as a result of that, the automatic access to zero quota, zero tariff access to the market will fall away. But we have decided that for at least the next 3 years, so till 2029, those privileges, that privileged access for Bangladeshi exports to the UK market will continue. And so we'll be maintaining that. And we are very keen to build on the trade and investment relationship. So I'm very keen as High Commissioner to promote UK company access to the Bangladeshi market, which is very fast growing. It's a large market, and I think there's much more that our companies could be doing here. And I work very closely with the existing large UK investors in Bangladesh. We're the second largest investor cumulatively, so big names like Unilever, HSBC, Standard Chartered are UK companies. And I think the private sector and UK investors have an enormously important part to play in continued growth in this market. And so I think it's a really interesting part of the relationship, and one that I work very hard to try and develop and maintain.
That's great. In fact, Bangladesh living in UK are substantially contributing to its economy as a foreign remittance. So would you enlighten us, how could we boost Bangladesh remittance from UK in the near future?
Well, I think it's interesting. I mean, the Bangladeshi community, the British Bangladeshi community is an increasingly, it's a core part of the UK. It's an increasingly visible and confident component of the overall population in the UK. I think there's an interesting question about how those links are maintained, because, you know, as people get into the sort of third and fourth generation, there is an interesting question. They're increasingly prosperous, but they increasingly, I think, see themselves as sort of British, with the Bangladeshi part of it being a heritage rather than something that is in their direct personal experience. So what I think we'll be doing is sort of refreshing the community over time with more students and more skilled migrants, and I think that will help to maintain the sort of cultural and people-to-people links, and with those come the remittance links as well.
True. So Britain is regularly helping Bangladesh in technical trainings and in different aspects and sectors, including public administration and armed forces. So would you like to update us on this aspect?
Well, I think it's really, I mean, this is one of the ways in which our development relationship is maturing. As Bangladesh graduates from LDC status, then we will, I think, no longer be doing the sort of large direct investment in services that we were doing here that was appropriate to do in an LDC country, and is less the way that we deliver assistance to a middle income country, which Bangladesh is about to become. But clearly, in order to maintain that growth, then the capacity of the public administration is enormously important. And so we are continuing to work very closely with the government on economic reform, on education reform, on health sector capability, not to deliver those services directly ourselves, but to ensure that the government and people working with the government have the capacity that they need for Bangladesh to invest in those capacities itself. So we're doing much more in that field in terms of our overall development relationship. And you mentioned defence. Well, we have an expert team in the National Defence College this week, which I'm very pleased to see. It's the second package that we've delivered to the NDC this year. We have some counter-terrorism trainers in the country. So, in all sorts of areas, we are making sure that the sort of expertise that we have is made available to our friends in Bangladesh as part of our overall contribution to continuing development here.
Great. So your country is supporting Bangladesh to feed the huge Rohingya population. So could we expect some similar response from your government in solving the Rohingya repatriation?
Well, I think repatriation is really important. I mean, we completely share the government's objective that the Rohingya population should go home to Myanmar as soon as they can do so in a way that is safe, dignified and voluntary. So that is absolutely our objective, and we're doing what we can, working with colleagues in ASEAN, with other members of the international community. I have to say at the moment that the situation in Myanmar is quite difficult. I mean, since the coup of last year, and even before the coup, these are not easy conversations. So I think we have to accept that it is likely that the Rohingyas will be in Bangladesh for a while. And while they're here, we think what is important is to support them in a way that means that the people are productively occupied. And that really means enabling the children to be educated so that in the Rohingya language and in the Myanmar curriculum, so that when they return, they're able to pick up their lives as citizens of Myanmar. And I think for the adults, it means giving them vocational training and occupation, maintaining the camps, those sort of things, so that they can keep themselves busy and they can learn skills which will be of use when they return to Myanmar as soon as it's safe, dignified and voluntary for them to do so.
True. So millions of people in eastern and northern Bangladesh have been badly affected by the recent flood. Is your government contemplating on mitigating their plight on this issue?
Well, I should say it's a tragic situation. I mean, there's very close links between the UK and Sylhet in particular. And so we're very conscious. I mean, the news in the UK is covering the tragic story of these floods. So there's a lot of awareness. We are doing what we can. One of my team was in Sylhet yesterday with a UN team, and we have provided 7 crore taka of immediate relief, and we are looking at what more we can do to meet the immediate needs of the people who are tragically affected by this very difficult situation.
So we are going for the next question. And in UK and Bangladesh, they have varieties of common fields, as you have mentioned earlier, and their interest including education and cultural cooperation. Especially the Queen's visit to this country was a significant one. So how would you evaluate these features?
Well, on education and culture, very important. There's a very strong educational relationship. I mean, it was the Dhaka...
A lot of students are moving.
Many students. I mean, the UK has a very competitive offer on universities, and we've made it easier for students to stay on and study for 2 years after they graduate in the UK. So I'm very pleased that the number of Bangladeshis studying in the UK has gone up. I think we have some of the best universities in the world. Both the very top-notch institutions, Oxford, Cambridge, LSE, but also very strong technical universities, very strong universities providing more vocational education. And I'm very pleased that right across the piece, young Bangladeshis are choosing to study in the UK. What we would like to do is make it easier for UK universities to offer courses in Bangladesh. They've been very successful in countries like Malaysia and Sri Lanka in bringing the UK educational offer to these countries, and we are just beginning to see UK universities making those sort of offers in Bangladesh. They see the size of the market and the growth in the market here, and UK universities are really interested in Bangladesh, and I very much hope that we'll be able to do more. We're working closely with the Ministry of Education and with the University Grants Commission to try and enable more offering of the globally competitive UK universities to young Bangladeshis who would unquestionably benefit individually from a UK education, but also Bangladesh, which would benefit from more Bangladeshis being able to receive that education here in Bangladesh and then be here and contribute that expertise and knowledge to the further development of this country.
So I would like to go for the next question, that how would you explain the current bilateral relation of UK and Bangladesh?
Oh, it's an extremely positive relationship. I mean, we just had meetings between our foreign ministers in Kigali at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. So Foreign Minister Dr. Momen and his opposite number, Liz Truss, our Foreign Secretary, had a very productive meeting. And I think, there's a whole range of things, whether it's, as I said, on security, trade, development, political relationship, global issues like the Commonwealth and climate change, we're working very closely together on. And then we I think have a broadly similar view of the world, where we're both countries that benefit from the rules-based international system. And I have to say, it's a difficult moment, because the rules-based international system has been challenged in the most shocking way by Russia's illegal, unprovoked, appalling war on Ukraine. And I think all of us have a responsibility and benefit from the rules-based international system as it currently exists. And so I think we should be pushing back hard against what the Russians have been doing. And we, of course, are doing that as a member of NATO. We're doing that as a member of the G7. But we're working with others around the world, including Bangladesh, to try to develop a really strong international coalition to deal both with the aggression itself, but also with the consequences, because Russia's illegal, unprovoked act of aggression against Ukraine is one of the things that is driving the very serious increases that we're seeing in food and fuel prices and global inflation, which is having all sorts of very unwelcome economic consequences. And we should be clear about where responsibility lies, and we should try where we can to work together to reinforce the international system, which is designed to prevent exactly that sort of damage being done by one country to the whole global community.
So we will go for the next, we will come back to you after some time with more questions. Viewers, we are taking a short break. We will have more important and interesting conversation with our respected guests soon after the break. Stay with us. Welcome back to Meet the Envoy. Your Excellency, Mr. Robert Chatterton Dickson. So we would go back to our next question before the break. We had that. So you have met Election Commission, including its chief, yesterday. What impression have you got about the preparation of the upcoming election?
Well, the first thing I should say is that I think the elections, it's really important. I think, our strong view in the UK is that democracy is the best foundation for prosperity. A well-functioning democratic system with all the checks and balances and things that provides in terms of the best system for continued growth. And I think the foundation for democracy is elections. And so I think the next elections due in very end of 2023 or beginning of 2024 will be very important in Bangladesh. And I think the Election Commission is obviously the foundation for that. And I was very pleased. We had a very productive meeting yesterday, a very constructive meeting with so there were 14 ambassadors in the room, 2 who weren't there but were strongly associated with the meeting. So it was the OECD, the Organisation for Economic Cooperation and Development. So it was a core group of resident representatives here in Dhaka. And we had a very, as I said, productive and constructive meeting where the Chief of the Election Commission acknowledged that delivering an election is not an easy task, but he described to us how he plans to do that. And we had a very good first discussion. I'm sure we'll have more discussions in the future, but it was a very good conversation.
Going back to that, your government's expectation, and what's your government expectation about upcoming national polls in Bangladesh?
Well, as I say, I think the national polls will be very important. It's obviously for Bangladeshis to organise and deliver those polls. But we, as friends of Bangladesh, very much hope that those elections will be free, fair and credible. And exactly how that happens is a matter for the Election Commission and the government and people of Bangladesh. But I think, as I said, a free and fair poll which produces an uncontested result will be the best foundation for continued growth and development in Bangladesh. So that's very much what we would hope to see. And as I said, we had an encouraging first conversation yesterday as a group of international representatives here in Bangladesh with Mr. Awal, the chair of the Election Commission.
So how would you see Bangladesh government's success concerning the Padma Bridge construction?
No, I think Padma Bridge is remarkable. I was unfortunately, my daughter got married the same day as the inauguration of the Padma Bridge, so I had to be in Edinburgh where her wedding was taking place, not here in Bangladesh. But I visited the Padma Bridge on a couple of occasions, and it's a remarkable structure. I visited once just before the final piece of the bridge was put in, and the scale is remarkable. And I think it's both a remarkable achievement by the government and people of Bangladesh. But I also think it's going to have an incredible effect on the development of the area surrounding it, the sort of area to the southeast to the southwest of the bridge, which has been,
Bangladesh.
relatively underdeveloped, I think will really come on in leaps and bounds. So I think it's just a reminder of how important infrastructure is in development. And of course, it's only one thing that's going on. You've got the Padma Bridge, you also have the metro rail, you have the Khandakar tunnel, you have the new airport terminal. So it is really exciting being here in Bangladesh and seeing, every time I see these things, they're different, they're better, and they've made progress. So I think, the next 4 or 5 years, as more of this infrastructure is opened up, I think we'll really see the contribution that infrastructure can make to continuing sustainable development.
So true. So what are your observations about Bangladesh media and people in general?
Oh, well, I think both the media and the people of Bangladesh, one of the reasons I've so enjoyed being High Commissioner here is because there is always a willingness and enthusiasm, both in the media and among Bangladeshis more generally, to debate, to discuss. It's a very open culture, and I think that's reflected in the media. There is obviously a lot of media. We know that there are some in the media, there are pressures on the media, and we've discussed those in the past. But I think the way that the media operates and the way that people live their lives here, very open to debate, very open to discussion, and that makes for an enormously enriching, stimulating, engaging place to be a diplomat, because diplomacy is about discussion, debate, agreement, agreeing where you disagree. And the great thing about a media and a people who like that sort of engagement is that it's enormously stimulating place to be a High Commissioner.
Very true. So whatsoever, once you leave this country, concluding your assignment, what are those things that you would miss about this country?
Oh, well, I'm going to miss everything. I'm going to miss the people. I'm going to miss, as we were saying, there's this fantastic debate. I really enjoy the sort of, the adda here in Bangladesh, the sort of discussion of everything, but also the willingness to debate and to disagree and to discuss and to argue. I think that's really stimulating. I'll miss the food. I think the food in Bangladesh is fantastic. And I'll miss the countryside. I really enjoy going out of Dhaka and seeing the green fields and the paddy fields and the villages and the trees and this is a fantastic country. And as we were saying earlier on, I'd say two things. One is that, as I was saying earlier on, there is a really deep and diverse relationship between the UK and Bangladesh. So it's enormously exciting. It's a huge privilege to be High Commissioner here representing the UK, because there is so much to the relationship, and I am really enjoying doing that. But the other thing I'll miss, I think it is very exciting to be in a country where growth, despite the fact there are immediate economic challenges everywhere in the world, Bangladesh is on a very solid growth path. Over the last 2 decades, we've seen growth of 6 to 8% a year. As we were saying a minute ago, we're seeing very physical manifestations of that in the infrastructure, the new bridges, the new metro, the new airport, the new roads. And it's really exciting to be in a country that is really coming on by leaps and bounds, where you can really see economic growth taking place. That's very exciting. And it's been enormous fun. I'm pleased to say I've got another several months. I'm not leaving immediately. I'll be leaving sometime in the spring of next year. But this has been a really fascinating, engaging, absorbing, enjoyable post, and I'll leave with huge regret when the time comes.
That really means a lot to us. So, Mr. High Commissioner, we're at the end of our conversation today. You may share your last words for us?
No, thank you very much for having me here. As I said, one of the things that I've always enjoyed about Bangladesh is the willingness to debate, to ask questions, to discuss, and I always enjoy, doing that with my friends in the media. So thank you very much for having me here today, and I'm sure we'll meet again while I'm still in Bangladesh. So thank you very much.
We will meet again. Thank you so much. So, viewers, we are at the end of our program, and before that, I would like to express our heartfelt gratitude. Thank you once again for coming here and joining with us. It means a lot to us. So, thank you, viewers, for watching Meet the ENVOY with us. Stay tuned and connected with DBC News.